Hello everyone, and welcome to the opening feature race of the 2016 Mopar Canadian National Superbike Championships at Shannonville Motorsport Park east of Belleville, Ontario. I'm your series announcer, Frank Wood. This CSBK national race coverage is brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Motovan, and Magneti Morelli. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first round of the Mopar Canadian Superbike Championships for 2016. We're here at Shannonville Motorsport Park, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and this broadcast is brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Motovan, and Magneti Morelli. Well, as the riders go out for their warm-up lap, Colin Fraser and I will do a call on the grid. And Colin, starting on row 7, the back of the pack, the number 77, Grant Smith. Alongside him, number 113, Rainer Gries. And then filling out that row, number 14, the rookie rider, Samuel Trepanier.
Row 6 includes number 16, rookie pro Alex Coelho, and number 2, Sean Haydorn, returning to action on his BMW.
Moving up to row 5, wherein we find number 81, Brent Strong. Number 310, Philip Leckie. Number 40, Marco Souza. And rounding out row 5 on the number 15 machine, Michael Taylor.
Moving on to row 4, Franklin Dominguez on his Kawasaki, Pedro Souza, and Ross Milson complete row 4.
Top rookie pro starts from P11. That is number 91, Derek White. Number 285, Chris Murray O'Dane starting right alongside him with number 24, Sebastian Tremblay, and that row filled out by number 74, Michael Leon.
As the field's coming to the grid proper, we look at row 2 with nothing but Yamahas for Bodie Eadie, Kevin Lacombe, and Trevor Daly.
Up to the front row, fourth fastest qualifier, number 86, Ben Young on the BMW. Alongside him, number 42, Ken Riedman on the Kawasaki. Then we have Matt McBride, second fastest qualifier, number 13 in position 2. And on pole, number 1, Jordan Zoke.
And we're waiting for the Blue Streak Racing start lights to trigger. Keep your eye on the far left. Jordan Zoke, our man on pole, on number 1, and he's riding a win streak.
Close eyes on Kenny Riedman as well, calling the number 42 bike. He has come into this weekend pumped up. He had a really good qualifying effort, and sure enough, he's gone into the lead. Kenny Riedman sprints into the lead on the Kawasaki.
Ben Young and Kevin Lacombe both doing well. They were on board with Jordan Zoke, who's not having a good time in the second turn.
Out of turn number 2, Young runs in second spot. Looks like Matthew McBride has moved up into third. And Kenny Riedman leads. Zoke holds on to, where is he? He's 5th spot right now, in behind Bodie Eadie. Bodie Eadie on the number 5 yellow Yamaha there. I don't think I've seen Jordan Zoke so far back in a pack in a long time, Colin.
Looking a little further back, Kevin Lacombe in 6th, but already these top 5 are gapping the field just a little bit on the first lap.
Taking a ride now with Matthew McBride, and McBride coming down, swings out to the right and passes Ben Young. Shunts Ben Young back into third spot. Matt McBride has moved into second, right on the back wheel of Kenny Riedman.
Good shot through the S's there, and you get a sense of how rough the track is here. Breaking into Allen's corner, you see the rear wheel in the air on Riedman's leading Kawasaki. McBride and then, of course, Young are in his first ever Superbike National, chasing hard, and they're all in front of Jordan Zoke.
Zoke has been able to get past Bodie Eadie, so he now sits in 4th spot. But Ben Young, his first year on a Superbike and first full season on the Canadian Tour, running very well there, presently holding on to 3rd spot.
On board with Matt McBride, heading towards turn 3.
McBride pulls in. He's taken the pass. McBride has passed Kenny Riedman in turn 3. Sorry, Colin.
Nope, good move there by McBride. And turn 3 is a tough part of the track.
Oh, moment for McBride.
Lots of pavement changes and challenges in terms of traction. Of course, it's very hot and slippery today. And first really good weather we've had so far this year. And you can see McBride comfortable in that tricky part of the track.
And Riedman there, of course, on the Sturgis Cycle Liqui-Moly-sponsored Kawasaki Superbike, keeping track of McBride. I wouldn't doubt that we were going to see Riedman move into the lead, back into the lead, I should say, very quickly. I don't think he's going to be satisfied to sit back in second.
But it looks like McBride won't be satisfied unless he builds a lead, because he's starting to pull away, and I'm not sure if Riedman can stay with him.
Well, McBride, actually, you're right. McBride has got a sizable lead here. Holy, jumped up the 4 pack of riders that are following it. Riedman, Young, Zoke, and Eadie, somewhat off the pace of McBride is setting right now. Second fastest qualifier. McBride, Riedman, bit of a moment there for Ben Young. McBride, Riedman, and Zoke were the only riders to get under the 105, and Ben Young makes a move now and moves up one position into third spot solidly.
Meanwhile, in the background, Lacombe, I believe, is 6th from Daly in 7th, and I think it's Tremblay, or actually it's Lyon in 8th and then Tremblay. So really good battle for 6th just outside of what we're watching right now. Lots of competition. The field certainly deeper than it was last season.
Ben Young on the 86 machine getting some airtime on the front end of that thing coming off the hairpin there, with Riedman peeling off in pursuit of Matt McBride. And I'm astounded, I'll be honest with you, Colin. I did not expect to see this kind of a lead. I mean, even when Jordan Zoke has been at his best, he's not had this kind of a lead this early in a Superbike race.
And look at that, Zoke timed it very well going into Allen's corner on the brakes on Young, and it's going offline there is tricky. The track's pretty rough, and here we go on board with Zoke, and you can see Riedman stepping the back out, making the traction control work hard as he comes onto the front straight. And of course there's a whole level of electronics to control these Dunlop slick tires, and we don't know exactly what's happening with each of these bikes. We have to just watch, pay attention, and of course say that yellow bike of Bodie Eadie, it's his first weekend on that Yamaha, so probably he isn't as dialed in as some of the other guys.
But there again, your top 3 riders right now are the top 3 qualifiers. They're the only riders to get under 1 minute and 5 seconds on this track. And what I'm leading to here is that Ben Young and Bodie Eadie have got to get a hold of these guys and stay with them.
No, and they've done a terrific job so far. I think there was a big question how deep would be the battle for the lead. And 5 bikes, and for sure one of them, Eadie, it's a surprise to see him do that, and he's probably pushing harder than anyone else given his limited time on the bike and of course the very short supply of good weather to test in preseason.
The other thing is too, Colin, the 3 riders that have come to this racetrack with Yamahas, Bodie Eadie, Lacombe, and Trevor Daly all had an awful lot going on in their paddock area, if you know what I mean. It seemed like they had their work cut out for them getting those Yamahas ready.
Yeah, it's definitely taken some time to dial them in, and the bikes in front of them are more established. Now, the Riedman's on a brand new Kawasaki, a new model this year, but they did some testing in the United States and they got some good weather, so that makes a difference. And meanwhile, very close at the front between these 4 as McBride continues to build steadily towards a bigger lead. He's close to 2 seconds now.
Yeah, he is going for a Sunday afternoon stroll in the park by the looks of it, and I don't doubt there's probably a bit of frustration in the number 1 rider right now.
Well, he's got to deal with Riedman or else push Riedman up to McBride. Either way is going to work. Of course, Jordan likes to deal with his problems one at a time. He says that on a regular basis. He doesn't mind racing somebody, but he doesn't like to race a group. And of course, he's a bit of a target with 7 straight wins and lots of championships. You can understand that. And wow, crazy on board in the S's with Zoke. And he's looking for that inside move. Riedman drifts just a little bit tight there. Let's Zoke know the door is maybe not slammed shut, but you're going to have to be pretty ambitious to make it work as we start another lap.
And Ben Young, his first full year on a Superbike, in fact, his first ride on a Superbike, there he is sitting back in 4th position, right behind a 10-time national championship winner. He couldn't be in a better spot to learn this game.
Yeah, and another good shot looking back at the battle for second from Riedman, second place Kawasaki. Young there taking the classic wide line into turn 8 while everybody else seems to be trying to figure out how to make it work up the inside. And Zoke is definitely looking, and if Riedman makes the slightest little mistake, Zoke will pounce, but so far it hasn't happened. And again, McBride is slowly but surely pulling away, and as you mentioned, this is not what Zoke wants, and he, again, either wants to move McBride or move by McBride.
Well, if it should happen that Zoke is able to catch Riedman and pass him, my strong advice to Riedman would be to repass as quickly as possible. If the champ punches you in the nose, you've got to get a right hook back in there as soon as you can.
And here you see Zoke having another look up the inside.
Pulls the front wheel, dives to the inside of Kenny Riedman and makes it happen. Jordan Zoke moves up 1 position. Let's see what Riedman will do in response.
Of course, everybody's getting their pit boards on the front straight here, getting an idea of the gap. And as you can see there, between Eadie, and the next group, they've really opened up the top 5 lead. And here you see Zoke planning the move, and it wasn't obvious to me it was going to work, and I think he just decided to go and see how it would play. Of course, Riedman didn't shut the door. Zoke's trying to cheat as far over to the line as he can. It's a tricky move, and at this point, he's back trying to close the door so Riedman can't retaliate right away. You can see the BMW drifting a little bit in front of the Kawasaki as they head into the final turn at Shannonville.
McBride gets ready to launch off the hairpin. He is on his way now. Zoke, Riedman, Young, and Eadie are in chase. Colin, as I look at the body English of these riders, Bodie Eadie, if you look at him, he seems to be the guy who is racing the most. He's the last guy to lift his head. He's the guy that's leaning off his motorcycle the most. I anticipate a move.
Well, I don't know about that, Frank. I think Edie's just trying all out. He really doesn't have a great setup, very limited time on that motorcycle. I think it's just ambition. He's trying his best. He's doing better than was expected. And the next bike further back, I believe that's Trevor Daly. So we've lost Kevin Lacombe, apparently some kind of an issue with that motorcycle, and that's unfortunate. But again, we have two Yamahas, 1 5th, 1 6th in the top 10, and Daly would be sort of the first guy in the next group behind the lead pack.
We talked about Kenny Reedman having that support from Liqui Moly, the sponsors of our Pro Sport Bike race as well. They have a personal sponsorship with Kenny, and also Sturgis Cycle. And Colin, you'll note when we get those onboard shots, Sturgis Cycle's getting a lot of exposure out of this guy.
Well, very long time, over 100 years in the industry in Canada, so it's good to see that kind of sponsorship. Now we're back on board having a look at that busy front slick on Jordan Zoke's bike. It's not that busy because it's not on the ground that much on the straight, but definitely here it's doing a lot of work while he trail breaks his way off the back straight, and it looks to me like he's starting to bridge the gap to McBride, maybe not cutting in a huge amount. And again, we go looking back from Reedman's bike and having a good look, and now we're on board with Young looking forward. So this is the most interesting battle, the race for third. And of course, Reedman aims to win this race. He said it on the podium yesterday after Dalton Timmis qualifying. He wants the win, so he's got to pick up the pace if that's going to happen.
Well, he was also somewhat disappointed, you'll remember, on the podium after Dalton Timmis qualifying in that he had been dislodged from first place. Jordan knocked him out of first place, and also having a crash. He wasn't too happy about that at all. Give his crew a lot of work to do last night, and he doesn't want to put this one on its side.
Well, of course, a short series, relatively speaking, 7 rounds. You can't afford to give too much up. But the worst part of this, of course, is Jordan Zoke's running second right now. He's hunting down the leader, and Jordan Zoke is very difficult to deal with once he starts building a points edge. And all of these guys in the top 5 are thinking about what they can do to stay with Jordan Zoke. He is definitely the target. He is the top gun for the recent past, and it's going to be interesting to see what Zoke can do, because he's after McBride, but McBride has built a solid lead, and I'd say Zoke's almost halfway between first and third at this juncture.
I was going to ask for an opinion. What do you think Matt McBride is thinking about Jordan Zoke right now?
Well, he sees on the board that somebody's coming. I don't know if he's getting the number, but it's a decent guess almost in anyone's book that it would be Zoke who would be doing the chasing. Now we're looking backwards, and we're having a really good look at Bodie Edie.
Oh, nice shot. Bodie Edie passes Ben Young, and Ben Young returns the favor on the run from turn 2 down into turn 3.
Yeah, I think Edie kind of used the camber there and thought he could get the drive, and he might have got beside Young. Young might even have seen him, but Young probably decided, you know what, I'm not prepared to give this up just yet. And, Young hasn't maybe been the most flamboyant guy in this race, but given it's his first time on a Superbike, he is doing an amazing job. That Scott Cartier-built motorcycle, Willie Vass did the suspension. The first time they ever ran the bike was Wednesday of this week, so very limited track time for him here with that bike on a Superbike. However you want to describe the situation, remarkable how well they're doing.
And twice now in this particular lap, Bodie Edie has been close enough to reach out and touch Ben Young, so he is definitely there. And if he gets a chance, I've already said it before, I got a sneaking suspicion he's going to pull one out.
Well, it's easy to keep track of Edie because of that yellow paint by Molly type 70s Yamaha factory paint scheme. So it does shake things up a little bit visually. It's fun to have those bikes. And Trevor Daly's Yamaha has a sort of a Yamaha Canada red and white version of that. So the Yamahas have brought a lot to the series. And if you get a chance to hear these bikes, they are very distinctive in terms of their sound.
Indeed. There are points in this racetrack where Zoke seems to be closing and other points where McBride seems to be pulling away from him. That shot there proves to me that Jordan Zoke is definitely closing. Boy, he's getting too close for comfort.
Zoke looks like he's pushing a little harder. Of course, the tires would have come in now. He knows what the Dunlop slicks are going to do. They're in the right part of the cycle in terms of heat and everything. And I think he's definitely got the bit between his teeth. McBride seems a little more relaxed, but maybe he needs to pick it up if he's going to have a crack at winning this thing. Now, of course, it's easy to talk about catching him. McBride's turning a really solid pace at the front, and passing him is going to be a whole other challenge, trying to find a spot where McBride, who knows this track so very well. And there's the halfway flags from starter Chris Chappell.
Yeah, McBride, again, one of the only 3 riders that get under the 1 minute and 5 second bracket on this track. And McBride could crank off 105s all day long on this layout here at Shannonville. He grew up on this racetrack, and now Zoke, however, has a target, and I think he's getting ready to pull a trigger.
So have a quick look at the top 10. McBride leading from Zoke and Reedman, holding off Ben Young and Bodidi. Then further back, Trevor Daly, Michael Leon on his BMW, then Sebastian Tremblay's Kawasaki, Derek White on his Kawasaki, and Chris Murillo down on a BMW. That's our top 10 at half distance, Frank.
Sebastian Tremblay and Derek White have been battling it out now virtually since the start. You'll remember we picked up on them, the 2 green Kawasaki's sitting back from the race leaders early in the contest, and they're still at it elbow to elbow.
And here you can see that you really see the difference in the styles. McBride a little more relaxed on the motorcycle, and Zoke definitely hustling as hard as he can. And we're coming by to start the second half of the race, and they're going to see their pit boards, and McBride's going to see that he has, 0.1 maybe. Mm-hmm. He's just a few bike lengths ahead of Zoke, so I think it's safe to say we're on.
Will he go into a defensive mode, do you think, Colin? I'll mention quickly also they're coming up on a potentially lapped rider here.
Well, there's 2 things. One, it's way too early to ride defensively, although here with this track, with the surface the way it is, there are places, particularly right here in turn 3, where you can do it. But also, McBride's style so far hasn't been to race that way. His very sort of, for lack of a less corny way to put it, his organic moves that got him to the front, I think are holding him very well in terms of his pace right now. So I think he's just going to try and ride a little bit harder and force Zoke to have to really roll up his sleeves to find the pass. And you're right, traffic's coming into play.
Pulling out of the hairpin, Matthew McBride grabbing a big handful of throttle and accelerating away, but as he comes into turn 11, it has brought him on a slower rider. That is Sean Haydorn on the number 2 machine. McBride has made the pass. Oh, wow, I thought Zoke was going through with him.
Yeah, Zoke was thinking about
he
it
went
there.
Through with him. I thought Zoke was going to pass McBride on the way through.
Yeah, it's tricky because if something had happened, you could wind up right in the middle of it. And certainly in Allen's Corner, we've seen lots of controversial incidents involving traffic late in the race. Now, we're not late in the race yet. So I think Zoke was just hoping, waiting to see. You got to keep the pressure on. But McBride isn't really making any mistakes, and he's not riding particularly defensively. Look at that. He kind of left the door open in 3, and we know Zoke has tried that with some success already this race. And we're just coming through that section of the track, and here it's basically a funnel leading to the hairpin. Very tough to make a pass work through this section. Then you try and square it up and get a really good launch onto the back straight, and that's key with these bikes with, close to 200 horsepower.
McBride has been especially good at getting the launch from the hairpin. The last couple of laps, indeed, he's pulled away a sizable cushion coming out of the hairpin, but then Zoke seems to be able to eat it up on brakes coming into 11, and sure enough, there's Zoke again, probably within about 5 or 6 bike lengths as they come down into Allen's.
Now, Zoke's BMW, built at Fast Company by Scott Miller, a little more work on the engine this year than in previous seasons for Zoke. McBride's bike, virtually stock brand new earlier this week. Jeff Bluer built the bike up. McBride's run several BMWs in the recent past. It's a bike he knows well, and he's very happy with this new bike, which obviously, if it's not quite as trick as Zoke's, is certainly very potent. And as you pointed out, Frank, one of the few bikes to turn those really solid lap times here at Shannonville this weekend.
Slower rider that the McBride and Zoke are coming up. That's Phil Leckie out of London, Ontario. He's one of our rookie riders who made his first appearance on the national tour last year. Had a very good year as an amateur, and he's leaving the door wide. Very good, gentlemanly move by Phil Leckie as he leaves the door wide open for our race leaders and CRCA officials acknowledging, flagging him to let him know that there were riders coming, and Leckie got out of the way. Good
and it's
move.
Interesting to see Zoke saw that there was an open door there. It was nice and simple, and he got a terrific drive onto the straight, used all the track. But I don't think it made any difference. Those bikes are very, very evenly matched. And you watch McBride as he starts on the straight. Not a lot of drama to his riding style, but very, very efficient, effective in terms of getting that good run. But here we're going into more traffic and another opportunity for Zoke to try and make something work.
That distance between Zoke and McBride expanding and then contracting, coming up on a lap rider now. That is Rainier Grease on the 113 machine. And McBride gets through clean. Oh, man, I thought Zoke was going through there, and Rainier Grease moved right in front of him.
Yeah, I don't think he meant to do that. It was just how the lines played out. Of course, no rearview mirrors on racing motorcycles, so Grease maybe should have been wondering who was going to be close to McBride, or maybe he didn't understand what was going on. But I think Jordan was just hoping the door would stay open, and it didn't. But nonetheless, look at what's happened. He's closer now than he's ever been, even though he was slightly bulked there. So no harm, no foul.
Note also he's not letting McBride pull that trick of pulling way to the right to break the draft. He's staying right with him. Just if he goes to the right, Zoke goes to the right. So he is there.
Yeah, Zoke is fast in some sections. Other spots, it's McBride's edge. And like right now, McBride seems to have done a little better through that section of the track, which seems to have favored Zoke for most of the laps. And here's Jordan catching right back up. But of course, time, speed, distance is what we're really counting here. And sometimes the slower turns can mislead you in terms of how close the race really is.
This is a career ride for Matt McBride. This is, I've been watching him since he was a kid, Colin. This is one of the finest rides he's put in. This is awesome.
Well, remember a couple of years ago at Motorsport in the rain, he was favored to take the win, and he did lead. And wow, Zoke's pouring on the pressure into this very difficult part of the track. But that race didn't work out for him, and he's been overdue for a win for quite some time. Always qualifies well, has some decent results, but is just short that one victory that would kind of cement your career.
Zoke looks to the inside once more, and Matt McBride gently closes the door on him. Zoke seems content to sit back in second. I got a sneaking suspicion he's going to uncork on one of these laps, Colin.
Well, there's a little bit of time left in this race, and Zoke is close enough to make it work. McBride isn't making mistakes. We'll see what happens, but I don't know if you caught that last shot, but it looked like Riedman had definitely caught up to these guys a bit. So Zoke may see that on his pit board, and that may motivate him not to hang around. Yeah, Riedman is closer.
Yeah, and Bodie Eady isn't all that far back either. It looks like Ben Young perhaps is off the pace just a little bit, but Bodie Eady is working very, very hard to stay with the pace that Kenny Riedman's laying down. Yeah,
good call there. So Eady up to fourth, which is a really great effort with that Trip Dub Racing Z1 tuning bike, and again, very limited time. Bodie's been off the series for a while. Remember 3 years ago he won?
Through goes Zoke. Into turn 3, McBride returns the favor. Zoke returns their favor. They're back and forth on that one. McBride actually did get back into the race lead, but just for a split second, Zoke has taken the lead. Onto the hairpin we go, and look who's coming to call.
Yeah, Zoke really was thinking ahead in terms of what could work. He knows what's possible there, and there definitely is a pass in that turn by just driving straight up the inside and kind of muscling your way into the line. And McBride hung tough as best he could, but it is certainly rougher on the outside of that turn, and there's sealer and patches, and it's just a place where you don't want to give up the line much. It gets scary and challenging the second you're just a few inches from where you aim to be.
Look at Riedman. Look at Riedman, how he is closed up. Kenneth is about to become the menace.
Well, good for Riedman that he's coming up, and let's have another look. So here we come out of the turn 2, which has lots of camber, and I think at this point Zoke's decided I'm going for it regardless of McBride's line. And McBride isn't too defensive. The line is about where he is. He set the bike up into the best spot, and McBride just basically has to give it up once he sees that Zoke is there. It moves him just slightly over onto that concrete patch, and Jordan, as you can see, is building a little bit of a lead already with 3.5 laps to go.
And traffic coming up as we go down the Fabi straightaway and look ahead. There's a number of riders, I should say, that are going through turn 11 right now as Zoke peels off the back straightaway. He'll be catching up to them very soon. Also, there's Kenny Riedman. He has definitely closed yet another couple of bike lengths.
Yeah, and Riedman's going to be trying to get to McBride. I don't know if he can get to Zoke, but of course all it takes is one little fumble in the traffic and everything changes. And Jordan is very decisive in dealing with lapped riders, but things can go wrong.
Well, we've seen two examples. One where Phil Leckie knew the riders were coming, moved aside, lap 20.
I think in the background there, sorry Frank, I think Bodie Eady just fell down coming through the last turn, so that would have been fourth spot. We'll see if we can get a confirmation.
Oh, heartbreak for Eady as he was seemingly keeping pace with Riedman and hopefully being dragged back into the fray that we saw for the first few laps. Yeah, you're right, Colin. He is down. That is the exit of 13, if I'm not mistaken, the exit onto the front straightaway where Bodie's had his mishap.
Meanwhile, back at the front, Jordan Zoke's lining up the traffic. Oh, this Coelho gives him the signal with his foot where to go by. So very good work by the rookie pro. Very thoughtful in terms of the race. And we've seen pretty much well-behaved people right the way through so far.
Alex Coelho on the number 16 bike, inheriting Francis Martin's old number. And now the rider coming under scrutiny from Zoke is the number 40 rider, Marco Souza. And 2 years ago, he was the Pro Rookie of the Year.
So there's Zoke now in front of Souza. Souza has that very sharp-looking new Yamaha, built at Z1 tuning, and now we have second and third coming up behind him, and Zoke definitely dealt with traffic decisively there, and that will probably help his effort.
Consummate professional. He just doesn't seem to make any mistakes. Even when there are guys that cut you off and take your line away, Zoke it doesn't seem to fluster him.
And there you see Reedman trying. Don't know if it's going to work out. No, McBride. That was close. And don't forget that this is all happening with a lapped guy right in front, and that's going to be key to what happens at the hairpin.
Reedman way wide in 9. Into the hairpin. Down goes Souza. Oh, Marco Souza's gone down. How did McBride miss him?
Well, a lot going on there. And, of course, McBride was also focused on Reedman, who showed him a lot more than a wheel. So that was pretty crazy stuff there. It was good at one. I think they were more or less 3 abreast at one point. And, of course, you don't have to worry about the wave flag limiting your move now. So here you have Reedman offline, but hasn't given it up. McBride is kind of second guessing what's happening. Poor Souza, just a little bit of speed, maybe more than he should, maybe slightly offline, but here you go on board for McBride. No drastic mistake, but he just washes that bike out. And the miracle is, wow, did McBride come close to Souza as he went down? And of course, while this was all happening, Reedman ducked under, and that's what happens when you pour the pressure on and you keep looking for the gap. Sometimes it goes your way.
And all that just before the last lap. Here we go. One more go round for Jordan Zoke and company. Assuming he's going to keep the lead on this one, Colin. He's riding extremely well, and you can see he enjoys a comfortable cushion. But think back to that crash that we saw at this corner just one lap ago and how things would have changed had those other riders been gathered up.
Yeah, you can see that Jordan Zoke was only a few inches off the line where Souza had his problem. It just illustrates how easy it is to have something go wrong and how close to the edge these guys are. And of course, the bikes are hot, the tires are hot. It's half an hour of racing. It's a very demanding hot day, and it's a physical workout, and Zoke, who's now the elder statesman of our series, has certainly shown his style.
Reedman moving way out of the way on McBride, making sure that McBride didn't get any kind of a soft air toe down the back straightaway. Reedman defending second spot. Coming out to the checkered flag now, Canada's 10-time Superbike champion, and he racks another one up. When you consider the races from last year, Colin, you mentioned that's 8 in a row now for him. Reedman second, McBride third.
And after qualifying, we had a notion that these would be the top 3, but what we might not have expected was that McBride would be such a major factor through most of this race. So very impressive debut for that several-day-old BMW.
Yeah, Matthew had, as I say, that's one of the best rides I've seen him put in. Would that he could have won one of these things, but he's got a full season ahead. We got 6 more races to go in Mopar Superbike Championship, so hopefully we'll see Matt back again and hopefully doing the same kind of stuff he was doing today.
Looking at our results, there's the confirmation. Zoke from Reedman, McBride, Ben Young, very solid 4th. Meanwhile, Michael Leon rode his way up to 5th, a very good effort for the veteran. Looking at the rest of the top 10, next up was Sebastian Tremblay on his new Kawasaki. Trevor Daly, after running off the track with his Yamaha, was 7th. Derek White, 8th on his Snow City Kawasaki. Bo Eady rebounding for 9th. And Chris Murray-Odan, 10th overall on his BMW S1000 RR.
Matt McBride, what an excellent start. And for the first few laps of that race, it looked like you were going on a Sunday afternoon ride all by your own self.
Yeah, I got out there, I didn't get off the line that great, but I got through 1 into 2 really well, and got by Kenny, and got to set the pace for a little bit. The bike was working really well. It was hot out there, a long race. You start counting the laps when you're out there by yourself at the front, So I knew Jordan was right behind me and Kenny not too far, but just had to stay out there, got into a little bit of lap traffic. It held us up a little bit, but I was happy just to finish and be up here, It was a lot of fun. This Rider's Choice BMW worked amazing. And we're just happy to be out here, happy to be up on the podium and getting results.
Kenny, you had a reasonable start there and a good run up front. Did you have some fun?
Yeah, I was having a great time out there. The track was hot and a little greasy, and the pace Matt was pushing right at the beginning. I tried to stick with him a little bit, started to make a mistake, thought it would be better just to cool down a little bit and make a push near the end when I would have a bit better tire. Jordan came by, and same thing. I didn't have the pace to keep with him, but it seemed like the last couple laps I was feeling really comfortable, and luckily enough, a bit of luck with lap traffic, and I was able to catch Matt and make the pass. And I'm out here to win, but all things considered, I threw the bike away yesterday. My team worked really hard putting it back together. I'm glad to be up here in second place.
Jordan, as I commented on air earlier, I've never seen you work so hard for a race win.
Oh yeah, I still got some fight left in me out there, and we knew we had a great motorcycle, and I got a really great start. I knew Kenny was going to be on a mission right off the hop, so I thought, well, if he gets a better start, I'll just tag along with him and play it out. Actually, the biggest surprise of the race was Matt hanging in there. You know, he's a great fast guy, and in the past we've got him a little in the fitness, but he seemed to have addressed that a little this year. He's really good, and my hat's off to him. I really respect Matt. He's a good rider. I knew Kenny was going to be the man for me to beat all year long. So I was really hoping when I seen Matt jump away that maybe I could put him between us, but it's going to be a long, tough year. It's far from over, and fantastic to see all the fans out here. It's just been a fantastic start for everybody to the season.
Ladies and gentlemen, your podium from round 1 of the 2016 Mopar Superbike Championships.
Well, there we have it. Mopar Canadian Superbike Racing Round 1 for 2016 is now a wrap. This broadcast was brought to you by Dalton Timmis Insurance, Motovan, and Magneti Morelli.